We were just chatting out in the sun. I was hearing more about where you are in your journey of building, and you are like literally in the middle of it. So can you please take me back? You've been working at Lego, you've been at Pleo as well. Take me back to that moment where you decided that you actually wanted to do something yourself and become a founder.
Oh boy, well, it's going to take us, the whole rest of the dang podcast to get through that. I will start maybe a year and a half ago. I have been an infrastructure engineer for 10, 12 years or so. And what that means, like in practice as an infrastructure, is that I have helped companies spend a shitload. Can I say shit? Actually,
Yes,
sorry.
you do whatever you do. You do you, and it's perfectly fine.
Okay, good. I have helped companies spend a shitload of money on AWS and Google Cloud Platform. Every single company is using cloud infrastructure. Every company I've been working for is using cloud infrastructure. And I've been helping optimize, but realistically just utilize more and more of these cloud services. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I started to realize, okay, cool, my career is fine. I've got a stable career and I can see the trajectory. But actually, these companies, these massive American companies, are a little bit at odds with who I am as a person. I don't really believe this is the way I want the planet to go. That, these massive monopolies are gobbling up the entire not just software, but, kind of the whole planet, it feels
Yeah.
like to me. So, there's that existential sort of pivot in what am I going to do with this? I love my career. And so I start personally. I start thinking about, okay, so I'm very tied to Google personally. I have an Android phone, I have Gmail, I have all the apps. And so I start individually moving off of Google in my personal life. And so I'm
Mm.
switching to Proton Mail and Proton Calendar and also off of Facebook. I'm moving to Signal, things like that. At about that same time, I'm thinking, okay, also my transactions are, I'm using Google Pay, for instance.
Mm.
And okay, so I need to move off of Google Pay. Maybe I'll bring my physical card or maybe I'll use cash. But those kind of suck to do. I don't want to bring my physical card around or use cash.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's my other option? I can buy an iPhone. All right, but that's still a huge US company. Maybe they're a little bit better on privacy, but they're still a huge American company. So I start looking into alternatives that are just not American. It turns out nothing really exists. You cannot, if you have a phone and you want to use your phone to buy stuff in person, you have to use one of these two apps, Apple Pay or Google Wallet. And this was about a year ago. I was working for a company called Legora, which is now a massive scale up. I mean, not even a scale up anymore. They're worth an immense amount of money. I was working for a company called Legora, and I was presented with, I guess, the same choice that every potential co-founder is presented with. They have a nice, probably good job that's going to pay them reliably for the long-term future, or the idea to create something. And about this time, about a year ago, I decided to create Walt, which is the European alternative to Google Wallet and Apple Pay. Walt is the same exact experience that people expect with Apple Pay and Google Wallet. It's just private, unlike Google, and it's European, unlike both Google and Apple. Okay, well, now I've already done the pitch for Walt, so we can get that out of the way. But
Moving away from the big American companies. And there's also the narrative around, subtlety and Europe coming together and so forth. I can hear well, for those people who have it, I can hear an American accent. How does that connect?
this is so fun. We're already into it. Normally someone waits 20 minutes into a pitch before they're like, excuse me, where are you from?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm from Kansas. I'm from the US. I've been living here in Denmark for 7 years or so. I have never quite been able to frame my actual perspective on this question in
Mm.
ways that are in any way eloquent. And I suspect I will fail here again. But the reality is that, I'm talking about EU sovereignty. I'm talking about building a solution for Europe, a tap to pay solution for Europe that is not Google, that is not Apple.
Mm.
And the truth is that I believe EU sovereignty is one of the most important things for the US, for my home. And what I mean by that is like no one suffers more from privacy concerns, from lack of policy that protects people than my home, than the US. The distance that Europe needs to find from the US is not just a benefit to Europe, it is a benefit to the entire world.
Yeah.
And so when I talk about EU sovereignty, when I talk about Walt, and the reason I'm building Walt is yes, for Europeans, for my home, for Denmark, for Danes, but it is also for the Americans to find some sort of reasonable sense of self
Mm.
and to start to tamp the power that these massive American companies have. And it is in, I believe, the entire world's best interest.
And you're seeing also in the many things that is happening right now that there is a bit of a right is probably a big word, but there's a push against the billionaires and there's a push against AI, right? Because
Sure.
it's like, well, hey, hang on a minute. Like, what does this all mean? But also, why is it that it's only one person's best friends that
Yes.
are running the entire world, more or less? People are perhaps getting to a point where it's enough and they want to
Right.
find that. And it's one of those funny things that I talked to someone else about the other day. It was like, why is it that we have to go into these extremes before then thinking, well, actually, maybe competitiveness, openness, innovation for the greater good for everyone is a good idea.
Mm.
And it shouldn't be that we get to these extreme positions before we're like, you know, putting our foot down and say
Yes.
enough is enough.
Yes. And it's also one of the reasons why I'm both sort of infinitely grateful for my move to Denmark and in Europe in general is that I think as an American, you don't get to really understand what the benefits are of taking a slower, more conservative approach to topics like AI. As far as AI goes, we only have Mistral here. We only have Mistral in France. And I wish we could slow down the others. I wish we could slow down Anthropic and OpenAI to a pace that is closer to what Mistral is doing. I'm just very grateful for the pace at which Europe and especially Denmark are sort of setting themselves up for the future.
Before we go into all of that, I wanted to take a tiny, tiny, tiny step back. You are now in the midst of building Walt, and I wanted to hear from you. How does it feel? How is it being on that side now, being head down, building? What some of your struggles from a personal perspective? Also, what does it cost you emotionally?
Oh, good. Yes, I mean, it's funny because in the last sentence, I was like, I wish we could slow down. And now, as I'm about to introduce how I actually work, I'm like, "Oh, I'm the one
Completely
paying the
opposite.
most money to Anthropic right now. I have the biggest 20x package you can buy from them
Yeah.
to realistically build right now, at least in the software sphere.
Mm,
It is a true luxury to just have an idea.
mm,
I mean, I could not have built Walt. I could not have built Walt without at least Claude 4.5 or something like that. I don't just mean for code. I mean, literally everything I'm doing is going into a markdown document. Every conversation I have, every meeting I have with someone, I spend 30 minutes prior to the meeting researching that person with Claude, and that research goes into a contact file in a GitHub repo. So there's an immense amount of capabilities that I've gained in the last year that just, I mean, I would not have become a founder if I didn't have these new tools. I am crazy reliant on them right now. But I do think, what does it cost me emotionally? I am a solo founder, and I think Claude has replaced my co-founder. These conversations that I'd be having with Claude are purely, a lot of them are completely personal. And so in a way, I'm in a bit of an echo chamber.
mm,
I'm having conversations with Claude all day long about ideas,
mm.
and there is no person on the other side. There's just a robot that acts and sort of treats me like a co-founder. So it's a strange thing to have your best friend, your intimate partner, be a robot. And
Mm.
I don't exactly know what it means to me. I think it's too early to tell what it's going to be like to
Yeah.
have it in 3 years' time.
And
And
there was the first solo founder reaching unicorn level, just single handedly reaching unicorn status, right? I have so many questions, but the first thing I wanted to ask you is, does it feel lonely that you just sit in front of your laptop until crazy hours?
No. I mean,
I'm happy to
not
hear that.
yet.
Mm,
Maybe it will,
mm,
but there is too much newness. It's too new of a feeling for my emotions to realize that I'm actually not talking to a being,
yeah.
that this is a robot. I think it's also the fact that I'm a new founder, that
Mm,
everything is moving incredibly fast and I'm able to iterate extremely fast on the product, on ideas, on pivots. There's just too much excitement and too much almost humanness involved. Maybe, I've been doing this about a year, a little over a year now. It could be that in 2 years, I'm like, wow, I can't talk to an LLM ever again.
mm.
And maybe that's how we start slowing these companies down. We just get overexposed. It's almost pure adrenaline right now, fueling me and the rest of the Danish ecosystem of solo founders.
I interviewed at the DTU, the leading engineering university here in Denmark, in Europe. And one of the founders said he feels so stressed because everything, just as you said, Cole, you just need a great idea. And then you can get an MVP
Yeah.
and then off you go, right? So he feels stressed that he's constantly thinking at any minute, someone can snap up my
Yes.
idea and just because they have access to capital or whatever it might be, that just allows them to succeed and not him. What's your take on that? What's your thoughts?
That's absolutely something that keeps me up at night. If we just look at Walt, there's nothing, truly remarkable about this idea. I'm not, I'm copying essentially. I'm copying an idea that exists and putting it in a location with different values. But I also think, what's the difference between that and the way it was 5 years ago? I mean, ideas were never worth the money in the first place. I
Mm,
mean, it takes someone doing really shitty late hours of action to turn that idea into something valuable. And the same is true. It's maybe true now that you can get to a place that is reasonable, it can raise money faster.
mm,
But I'm a year in and I'm still staying up till 2 a.m.
yeah,
So it's not like, it's not in that way, it's the same problem we've always had. Someone can always come in with more capital and do the same thing you've always done. But will someone?
true, true. We're talking about this, one idea, you can ship it, you can do it. Vibe coding and agents now also allow for people who are not like you having an engineering background. I'm a former chief marketing officer. I'm not at all a coder. I could do stuff as well now that usually would only be in the remit of an engineer. How does that actually make you feel like, because I've actually never asked anyone about this. Like, how does that actually feel that you now are not just competing with your fellow engineers, but you're competing with everyone? Like, even people who you are be like, they don't know anything.
Yes. Yeah, that was one of the drivers that started Walt. A lot of engineers are starting to see their career slip away. And as much as I would like to defend that career, I realistically, I can't. As a software engineer, it's just no longer a defensible position. Even as we're having this conversation, Claude is writing code for my Android app. And yes, there's some good security practices that maybe I know a bit about more because of my 10 years in software, but that gap is closing very quickly. I wouldn't personally trust Lovable to build a full SaaS security product yet, but it's coming. And that is keeping a lot of engineers completely scared shitless right now. And I really feel for them.
Yeah.
I really do. There's an entire industry that is moving to non-existence. And this was a well-paying industry too.
Mm.
What happens to all these people? Absorb the tens of thousands of engineers who go, over the next 5 years, who have to do job transitions into lower income or no jobs. What does that look like and how each individual country is going to manage that and how families are going to deal with that. For my own personal sake, I am glad that I landed trying to solve a problem rather than trying to hold on to a career.
Yeah. Most people should take that time to think about, okay, how should I reinvent myself? And it might not
Mm,
be that everyone should go around being, a founder,
mm,
but then what is it that you should lean into? What does the future look like if you were to say, okay, well, most of my stuff could be automated or done by agents? Like, what's then left for me to do, or what else should I pivot into? That's why I moved away from marketing, because I saw 2, 3 years ago, well, it must be more actually, I saw marketing just being a lost cause. Like, that could be automated. Yes, you can argue that it's going to be mediocre marketing that agents can do, but you're seeing already like big agencies are utilizing AI for content creation. The strategy
Mhm.
element, like consultancies as well, are being challenged because data crunching is like a 101. Computers are better than humans. So I moved into commercials because that's where the human interaction is. Because selling, and let's not go into that because there will be a version also where you are attaching to agentic, right? Is there anything that you think others could learn from, or an inspiration, something you've seen others, like another person pivoting that you thought was very
Mhm.
inspiring? Just so also that we don't make it gloomy and doomsday.
I I mean, I'm a first time founder, solo founder. So understanding what other founders do and how they get to the place where they end up taking that first jump, just like
Mm,
you probably do here on the podcast. I think there is just an element of bravery. People constantly are identifying problems. Everyone in their daily life is seeing problems that they just instantly know the answer to,
mm.
especially in software. Words of advice to try and not keep it gloomy is there is really just one quality that is required, which is bravery. But it is hard, and recognizing that bravery is the key can sometimes make it easier.
I wanted to move us on to something I kind of alluded to, but I'm going to bring it back up now. Money. So
Yes,
you have been going for a
I
year.
have none. Do you have any? Do you have friends?
So how are you paying for all your tokens? Like, so I'm keen to understand, because I was just saying you are having multiple things running in the background as we speak.
Yeah,
How do you manage that? How do you fund your
yeah.
fund?
My mom is paying for my tokens. That is the honest answer.
Ah,
My
thank you, mom.
my mom is paying the 180 euro Claude monthly subscription. So first of all, I've been working. Uh, I worked at for Legora 3 days a week until I guess February or something, and so that provided enough cash that I could just get by in the last. What is it now? It's June. Scrape by on minimum cash. So I'm spending as little as possible day to day, buying
Mm,
as little as possible stuff. And then when I need to buy tokens, when I need to buy stuff, the actual answer is that I'm asking my parents for money so
mm,
that I can get by until hopefully someday soon I raise money from angel investors or venture capital.
yeah, yeah.
But the gold mine of how founders initially did it, which was consulting. You would consult either 5 days a week or 3 days a week, build up some cash in consulting, and then that would carry you over until you could get funding. That job is also kind of disappearing
Yeah.
because consultation, I mean, it's not so hard to get a full-time employee to do what a consultant used to be doing anymore now that you have access to Claude.
Yeah.
So that path is also disappearing a bit.
Yeah. Now you mentioned private equity, or VC. Where are you in your thinking process there, and what makes you think about one or the other? I heard another early founder the other day saying he was not going down the stream of VC. He was going to just try and bootstrap. Can you tell me a little bit more about like the considerations that you are currently thinking about for
Mm.
when that becomes relevant?
Yeah. Oh man, for me this is like a total gray zone. I have no first time founder, no one, some people that I know around, but no one really to approach this world. And so for me, probably just like the person you're speaking about, the initial idea of I'm just going to bootstrap everything. I'm going to build Walt, and I'm just going to use my $20 to build it, and then that's that.
Mm,
Um, that was such a naive presumption, and I completely did not understand that. As far as I can tell, everyone wants to bootstrap
yeah,
until they can't.
yeah,
Um, it's just not so many industries that are available for bootstrapping, especially fintech.
Mm.
And the reason is that every startup relies on some other company. Walt, for instance, is going to rely on two software vendors, and both of those software vendors are going to require huge upfront payments.
Mm.
And when they ask for that bill, I can't bootstrap. And so I have to go to angel investors or VC in order to fund Walt. So I would love to bootstrap, but at least in most industries, it's not really possible.
Refreshing, because
Yeah.
I think,
What do you, I
yeah.
mean, do you speak with a lot of bootstrapped, successful founders?
No, it's like you said. I think it's the first initial, really, really early in the journey that they can do that, but very quickly they need to move beyond that. I would say the runway for that, from the conversations I have had, are still very short.
One of the things that's most concerning to me, what I'm starting to understand, is the changing VC world. And by change, I mean that these funds, not so much here in Denmark, but in Europe and especially the US,
Mm.
these funds are getting much bigger. And what that means is that the initial investments that invest into the fund, they're making higher and higher contributions at a rate that is much different than just inflation. These funds are gaining access to huge amounts of capital. And access also isn't quite the right word, because they actually have demand to move this capital.
Mm.
And so what happens then, if you're a VC fund and you have a shitload of money, it is your responsibility to invest that money. And so companies like Walt, which are small pre-seed, there is not a conversation to be had with a fund, because I'm asking for tiny amounts.
Mm.
And a fund is trying to move billions of dollars or euros each year. Why would they have a conversation with me? Why would they have a conversation with 100 of me when Lagora is raising 600 times what I'm asking for in a single conversation? This worries me a bit, is just the also the monopolization of funds. And we see that with the big names in especially the US.
It's really interesting. I'm gonna have an interview with a VC fund a bit later here in June, so I'm gonna
Yes.
take this snippet and send it off to him, and then we'll talk about that in that podcast. Because I
And
think
I'll
actually
join.
it will
I'll
be really
pop in.
it will be really interesting to hear how he's seeing it. Because I also think, to your point, you need to, as a founder, you need to understand the business model on the other side, because otherwise you might be hunting down someone who will never actually
Yes.
take you serious, or wanting to, support you, because it's
Yes.
just not within their interest as part of their business model. So that's definitely something I think we should shed some light on,
Yeah.
on the Pension podcast. I wanted to move us on to AI tools, and like how you are learning, how you are deep diving in to using AI tools. Now let's just understand. You're having three things running right now.
Yes.
What's happening? Tell me.
Oh boy. Yeah, let's do it. So right now I have one of these agents running in a terminal behind the screen in my computer, and it's all on my computer. I don't have any sort of remote agents doing things. One of them is looking at a couple of issues that I instructed it to look at while we have this podcast, and it's creating a PR to fix those issues. Then another one is waiting for that PR to be published, and then it's going to do a thorough review on the PR. And then a third one that I was having a conversation with before this podcast was, what should I say and what should I not say on a podcast?
And fun thing, I was speaking to my co-work about what to ask in this podcast.
Oh, screwed.
We're all
The
screwed.
whole future is done.
hopefully hopefully there is there's a future, regardless, because MIT did a study a couple of weeks ago, and they found that you had three different levels of students writing an essay. One group of students were just like blindly like asking ChatGPT or whatever tool they used to create an essay, and then off they submitted that, right? Others were more like co-creating together with the agent, and the final group were the traditional old school way of going about writing an
Mhm.
essay, of those of us that still remember how that when it was done.
Yeah. Nice.
And they found that the ones who just, prompted and shipped it off, they could not explain what their essay was about. They couldn't defend it in a oral exam, and they had no recollection of whatever it was about, and their brain activity dropped nearly 50%. That's scary.
That's good. Well, what about category 2?
I don't remember. I just remember. I just remember that stat because it was just incredible. I don't remember. I think it was like in the 20% or something in the middle group
Yes.
of drop in brain capacity, like
Ah,
in
okay.
activity, right? Just being passive in prompting and
Yes.
just copy pasting things and not actually activating your brain on what are you doing, why are you doing it, what's coming back, criticizing what's coming back, knowing if it's right or wrong. All of those things also just impact our brain activity, and then
Yeah.
your brain will slowly just rot and
Just rot. I think one of the good things is that a lot of us who are using AI quite a bit are starting to develop this. I mean, you tell me, but I bet you have this sense of when you're reading something and you're like, this person didn't write this at all.
yeah,
There's no
yeah, you
person
see it.
behind this.
Yeah, you
And
see
there's
it.
something maybe hopeful about that, that hopefully these tools don't get any better at impersonating us, because there is something reassuring about being able to spot that M dash or
Yeah,
the 3 periods in a row of AI writing.
totally. You see it. I wanted to ask you, Cole, from a solo founder perspective, what's 3 things you are asking your co-founder, your AI co-founder,
My AI code.
about these days?
I open up LinkedIn in the morning and I'm looking for any competition. I'm subscribed to fintech posters, and there's so much in there. There's so much in the fintech world that I don't understand still. And so each morning, I'm basically asking the same prompt over and over again. Does this matter? Does this post matter? And I'll do that 2 or 3 times in a day if I see something potentially conflicting or beating me to the market. I'm also just trying to understand if I have a product.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I exist. I know that I want personally, and I would pay for the product that I'm building. What I'm trying to understand from Claude, as strange as it is, does Claude think there are other humans on this planet who would pay for this product? And that is a consistent fear and a consistent question I have with Claude.
Yeah. When with my podcast and what I'm doing with this, right? I asked that question as well. And
Yeah.
I asked the people as well. I know you have a waiting list, a big waiting list for Walt as well, right? But
Yes.
always asking people around, but I also ask Claude.
It's so funny. I mean, we're both asking a computer, do humans want this? And the computer's like, yeah,
Sure.
I think.
And one thing is to ask Claude about it. Another thing is to then go out and ask people about it. This startup that I met at DTU as well, and they are doing kind of like navigation mapping for blind people, and they have this interconnection in headphones, and they're going to do it in eyewear as well. So like meta glasses and stuff in the future. First of all, pretty cool idea.
Wow.
And second of
People are
all,
so smart.
it was so cool. And
Wow.
the other one is like they are connected with all these associations with blind people. They have a community of blind people that they connect with every week or every other week on making sure that whatever they're building is still making sense for the customer. I think that was such a cool idea.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
That
pretty.
is beautiful.
Yeah.
That is really amazing.
And then Meta and Google Glasses, they know where the market fit is now. No, they don't need to worry about it anymore. We're talking about how we can automate and people can write code and we could just get agents to do all sorts of things for us. And they're even like 2 running in the background right now for you. What are you scared about? What are you worried about when it comes to the future and also where AI will leave us?
The Anthropic CEO, I read his memorandum
Mm-hmm.
with the Pope when he and the Pope made a joint announcement, which I never thought I would read. But I read that, and I've also read maybe one of the most interesting things I've read in the last few years was Anthropic's code of conduct to Claude, the declaration they have for Claude, which is a prompt to tell Claude how to act. I think just the consistent message I have for listening to leaders and seeing how Anthropic, which is a company I really respect, is that no one has any idea what's going to happen. And there's some very strong AI apocalyptic people.
Mm.
And I don't know enough to be able to say that's ridiculous. I no longer have the slightest idea what what is going to happen here. And there's no one that I truly admire that has any confidence either. This Anthropic CEO is saying, we don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. What scares me is just that I see no real lever that anyone has to break the system, to slow down the system. That's what scares me. I
That
would love
is,
to hear your own perspective here.
on one side, I have this philosophy of like, I don't understand why regulation, like mom and dad, need to tell us how to behave and when we need to do stuff. I don't understand that. But on the other side, because of this exact thing, I feel like the need for regulation has never been greater in this space. Because if mom and dad don't tell us, even in the US, don't tell us how to behave and when enough is enough, then it becomes a money game and it
Mm,
becomes who can win the race, but no one knows why we have this race in the first place and what are we racing towards and why is it important to win that race. And it feels like it's just, again, that handful of individuals on the planet that are trying to, put the flag on the moon for the sake of it without necessarily knowing what does that actually cost society and the world to be able to plant that flag on the moon. That's probably where I am, where I feel like regulators need to just say enough is enough and also hear them. I take these also cry for help in a way, being like, I actually don't know what's going on. Like maybe we should stop it. Uh,
just
maybe,
pause. Let's just take a little pause.
yeah, and just reflect. That's kind of my 2 cents on it all.
Yeah, I love it. Good.
Paul, actually, this one is special. So I'm a resourceful gal. I take what I can to get stuff done. I was just sending LinkedIn messages to around 7 different, also early founders, and asking, I have an interview in an hour. What question would you love another founder
Oh,
to answer? A question that I got is, what's the question no investor or partner ever thinks to ask you?
maybe like, what is the vision for why you build a thing?
Mm.
And what is the vision? How does it fit into the world you want to exist? I asked someone, this is not a joke. I asked someone why. I was sitting at a table yesterday at lunch and he's a new founder. He asked me about Walt and I started explaining Walt and I asked him about his thing and he starts explaining this thing that I don't really have it's a B2B thing. I don't really understand it at all. I just kind of interrupted and I was like, why are you building that? And the like first thing out of his mouth was about revenue still on the table. And immediately my mind just kind of like turns into mush and I just am mentally gone. If I was an investor, I would just hope that I wouldn't care about that first sentence. I would want to hear the sentence that talks about how this particular solution I have builds a planet and a humanity that is in line with the way I want it to look in 10,000 years or tomorrow.
I love it because I met a stranger in London. He's fellow Nordic, but lived in London for many, 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 many years. And he does a lot of lecturing at Cambridge and so forth. And he's from the agency world. And he talked about this concept of how do we all, because of AI, how do we all make sure that we actually actively take a participated role in designing the future we want to live in, which is exactly the same.
Yes. And it's so easy. It's never been so easy to take a non participatory role,
Yeah.
to just allow it to unfold without any stake, without any declaration of this is what I want.
What's one thing you would say to other fellow solo founders who have just been in the weeds for a year?
One of the biggest skills I've developed over the last year is to just recognize when the company didn't die today, when it took a big, big hit, but it's not dead. And then I think there's another skill to co-founders, potentially myself, that they have to also gain, which is maybe the company should die. And those two
Yes.
skills are extremely valuable and not something that we've ever gotten exposure to before our first company.
Oh, can I comment?
Yes, of course.
With this podcast, just as a concrete example, I've just done this over the last couple of weeks, asking people, like, I've been doing this because it takes me a lot of time and effort. And I'm asking them, like, do you find this valuable? Is this interesting? Should I just kill my darling? Like, is that what I should do? And so far, I've only gotten one yes, kill it. So I, and it's just, I think to your point, being brave enough again to then say, okay, this was a fun ride. Let's kill this one and let's pivot and think about something else.
Yes. Yes.